Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor A. Brand, and I am your interviewer today. So welcome to this small segment that I have now called Atlanta Spotlight, where I spotlight artists from all around the Metro Atlanta region, doing things such as like entertaining with music, if they're filmmakers, et cetera, et cetera. So you guys are lucky because today I have my first guest. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone on the internet. My name is Ramon Rivera. I am a filmmaker from Atlanta, Georgia. Just graduated from GSU.
Okay, so Ramon and I, we kind of go like way back. We were friends at SCAT Atlanta, right? Back in 2016.
Back in 2016. That feels like eons ago, honestly.
Time freaking flies. I remember we were both, wasn't it like the math class? We were like stuck in and we didn't like understand what was going on.
I think it was either the math class or was it like a design class? I don't really remember.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the design class.
That was such a long time ago.
To this day, I still hate design, honestly.
Same. Honestly, I'm really glad I had to leave SCAT. Oops, honestly, can we bleep that out?
Honestly, I went to the Savannah one and I'm like, I'm tired. When do I graduate? When do I go? I'm just sleeping now.
I need some catch up on rest. Something.
Oh, dude, I slept a full like 2 weeks after I was out. I'm like, please sleep. All right. Well, let's get started, okay? So I'm going to ask you the first question. So tell us a little bit about you, basically where you're from, what did you do, like what were your inspirations?
So I technically grew up in Texas. So I was born in Texas, but I basically grew up here in the Metro Atlanta area. And I work on films. And I guess inspiration from that comes from, I always wanted to be a storyteller since I was like a tiny, tiny little kid. So always reading and writing. And somewhere in the process of learning how to do things like that, I guess I sort of switched to some sort of visual medium. And it became film once I got into like high school and things like that. And yeah.
So what would you say were like some of the things that did inspire you when you were like really getting into like filmmaking?
So when I got into filmmaking, again, it basically started from when I was like reading books and things like that. So I guess specifically, once I started reading more things along the lines of like fantasy and stuff like that, I kind of had this sort of internal feeling like I want to create these visually. And then I started watching films like, I don't know, I was like in middle school, like the Harry Potter films and all those other like fantasy, Lord of the Rings types of films that that clicked in my brain. And I was like, okay, I want to do something like that. That sounds cool.
That's awesome. So what exactly do you do in the film, or what is like your position primarily?
So I like to call myself a jack of all trades, but mainly a master of like the camera department. So like DP work, AC work, things like that. But as I've gotten older, and worked more in the industry, from the little things that I've done here and there, I've really fallen in love with directing, as well as working for Genie and things like that. And kind of sort of going with like my core and like back to the roots and go with like screenwriting and sort of continue on that journey to become a screenwriter.
So you kind of like dabble in everything.
Yeah, I dabble. But if I were to choose one or two, it definitely would be screenwriting and director photography, doing the camera work and stuff like that.
That's cool. It's cool. So you already mentioned that you knew that the love of craft really started when you were like watching like the Harry Potter films. Mm-hmm. What about that specifically made you choose like particularly camera work? Like what about those films made you choose that?
I remember watching the very first Harry Potter film and just being, I guess it's a mixture. It was a mixture of seeing the set design and sort of it coming to life on camera, like the lighting work that they did, a lot of the motions and camera movement and sort of them creating this huge world and then being able to just capture it. I just fell in love. I was like, I want to capture things like that, like how it was on the Harry Potter films. So of course, being a young one, I didn't really know anything specifics, but I just wanted to make things pretty, like those films. Like I just fell in love with those films. They're just so beautiful and stunning to look at.
So like from Harry Potter, going a little off tangent, but from Harry Potter, what house were you from? Like what was
I was a Gryffindor. I have a Gryffindor thing on my car, like the little magnet. Yeah, I was a Gryffindor.
I actually have like a little Gryffindor book that I got from Universal. So I have to ask because I just recently got into Harry Potter too. So I'm just like,
yes, welcome.
Thank you. All right. I haven't been in long, but I'm here to stay.
Yes.
Okay. So within the time frame that you were a kid and up until even now, and even when you went to SCAD, Atlanta has slowly started to become like a hub for people like creative work and primarily for film. So what are your thoughts on Atlanta becoming like a main cultural hub in terms of the entertainment world?
I think that, especially for us filmmakers, I think that it was a great thing a few years ago. I have come to realize maybe the pandemic sort of caused a bump in the road when it came to the film industry being here. But I sort of now feel that it is literally now the second Hollywood. So now everything is just oversaturated. It isn't that much of a necessity for people to work on sets here as much. But I think it's great because that allows the voices, primarily the POC and Black voices here in the city, to sort of be able to tell their stories through the art of film. So then that becomes cool because then it doesn't have to necessarily just be film. It can be music videos, it can be photography, things like that, like a visual creative medium. So I feel like it's like a double-ended sword, I guess.
What would you say your work really means to you?
So unfortunately, I did not create anything necessarily at SCAD, but I did create lots of things from Georgia State while I was there because I transferred there after SCAD.
Right.
And I can definitely say I was a product of my environment. So Georgia State is a diverse school in the heart of the city. So I was able to sort of mingle and match with different types of backgrounds, ethnicities, sexualities, genders, and all of that. So what it means to me is definitely trying to create a open and inclusive space in the production aspect of film. So a lot of the stuff that I've created, a lot of things that I've worked on has been in a, I guess you can say not a stereotypical sort of, basically, a white production company. I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to tiptoe around it. So, and I've sort of prided myself and I wanted to carry that forward of basically when I work on something and if I'm creating something, writing, production wise, or even in post, to sort of have an inclusive and diverse group of people. Because I realize that like we have representation and visual stuff like that when people are creating these diverse and inclusive stories, but sometimes the people who want to be part of that aren't necessarily want to be in front of the camera. So they want to be in the back. So like Genie and all that stuff and production basically. And being at Georgia State and being in that sort of environment, I feel like I've taken that to heart and I want to continue doing that as I make more films.
Okay. That's really cool. So when you were at Georgia State, what would you say was your favorite like piece of work that you worked on?
So I have two. So one was my most recent film, which I took a stab at creating a fantasy type of thing for my final project for a fiction production course. And that was really fun because I've never, and you don't really get the chance as you continue on with these courses to sort of create something like that until like the very end. Mm-hmm. So I did it my last semester. So that one was really fun to do because I was, again, going back to my roots with my love of fantasy and stuff like that. And second was being able to tackle my own personal insecurities and my own personal struggles and transform those into films. So I did a project called Growing, and it's basically about a character who is stuck in this first phase of themselves. And they're sort of trying to get to that growth and try to grow as a person and realizing that it sort of just, it could be a simple change within yourself to continue and to start growing as a person. So that one was really fun.
That's interesting. Well. Oh, I'm sorry. That's really
I know you're good.
Because like when I was from when I was at school, you didn't really see a lot of people do like fantasy stuff. So I think that's actually very like unique. That'll give you like a unique voice. So I have to ask the dreaded COVID question. Everyone has one. Everyone has one, so bear with me, my dude. But how would you say the pandemic really like changed your career? Like, what were some of the recent hurdles you really had to like go over or come across?
That's the answer. It's that. No, but it was very hard because when you're in school, because there's a different route for film. You can do the film school route, or you can just go in the field and work your ass off for free or very small amount of money, whatever. So both of those options became really hard to do because of the pandemic. So for me personally, I did obviously the film school route, and a lot of either internships or like really, low pay things I could do, production assistant or like second AC and stuff like that, became hard to like acquire. And it came down to having to just, scramble and try to see what people need help on, like small sets or whatever. So yeah, it became difficult to try to find even just something to work on, because that's the whole point of going to school and working in the industry, and that's how you get experience, is by working on these like small sets, in no matter what position you're doing. So it was extremely frustrating, I will say. And no, it's even like 2 years later, after the pandemic like ended, but not really ended, as we're on a slope right now downward, it's still hard to find jobs in the film industry.
Would you say that if like the pandemic didn't affect anything, it would still be as hard? Do you think it made it like a bit harder now?
I think it made it harder regardless. And this industry is really hard to get into if you don't honestly networking connections. And my only source of networking connections were in school. And since the pandemic happened, I wasn't able to get those. But I will definitely say the pandemic added an extra layer of difficultness into getting into this industry.
I do kind of agree. It was really challenging. All right, so I have another question. 2020 was like a mess.
Yes, truly.
2021, also a hot mess.
Yes, a hot mess.
2022 is still in its early stages. We're still in kind of like the first arc of everything.
Yeah.
So, what are your goals for 2022 or the rest of it?
So hopefully, one of the main goals is to at least do something in film, when it comes to either professionally, I guess you could say. But honestly, what I want to do in 2022 is to focus on my craft to sort of better yourself. Because a lot of people think that like you do something once or a couple times and you sort of become a master, you can do it for like really well now. You have to hone and you have to sort of continue doing it. If you're a screenwriter, you have to write 5, 6, 7, 8 scripts, like a month, whatever, to sort of hone that skill. Same with the DP things, same with the directing things. So I just really want to be able to like create as much as I can, whatever small thing, small music video, small short film, and just practice my craft to the point where I become an expert at an early stage, at an early level. And of course, as I go along the way, like have small goals, like work on X amount of sets on this month or whatever, things like that. I'm going back to get a master's. So hopefully, I'll be doing that as well in the fall. So
congratulations.
Thanks. Hopefully we'll see. Jordan has not sent out results yet. So hopefully.
Ooh, I hope you get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it.
Thank
Think
you.
positively.
Thank you. Me too. I'm trying.
It'll happen. Trust me. It's going to happen.
Thank you. I'm taking that energy. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So I got to know.
Yes.
I know your main thing you said is like you're a jack of all trades. But primarily, you mainly want to be like director, DP.
Yeah. Screenwriter, DP. Yeah. Screenwriter, DP. Yeah.
What would you say for all three of those? Would you say is like the best thing as well as the disadvantage?
Ooh, that's a lovely question. Let's start with the positives because we need some positivity in our lives. So I will start for screenwriting. So I feel like the best thing about screenwriting is that's the start. It's the start of a film. And that's exciting. Just letting your mind wander and sort of create these characters and scenarios. And it's just, I think it's one of the most creative aspects of filmmaking is starting. And I feel like that's super fun to me because again, being a lone book nerd, reading and writing since a kid, so I feel like I think that's my favorite part. I think it's an advantage, especially if you have read and stuff. You can create anything. That's fun. A disadvantage for screenwriting, it has probably caused me the most creative blocks. It has like the double-ended sword. So one, you can be super creative, and the other, it could also block your creativity, and you get into like this weird funk of like, I need it to be perfect, and I need to be great the first draft, and you don't. It causes a lot of I guess personal like creative stress.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of the disadvantages of screenwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Have you written things like that? Like you feel like
I would say I do have to agree with that. As someone who tries to write, like I try to write a little. I won't make it about me, I promise. But I try.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Of course.
I try to write at least like I made it a goal to write at least like 20 minutes a day. So at least like a couple words, but like it is hard because sometimes you're like,
yeah,
what do I do? Like you're stuck on like one scene, and it'll take you like maybe a good week to finally figure out, oh, maybe I should do that. If you're lucky, maybe a couple hours.
Yeah, no. I think for me, it's so strange. Those two sides of the spectrum is I wrote a 5-page script in about a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other side was I started writing a script about a month ago, and I'm still not done. I think I'm halfway done. So yeah, so like it just happens, and the best way to do it is just to continue to just write. But I will say for DP things, I guess it's just like the creative aspect of filmmaking. So I really like being able to sort of see what I wrote come to life in the camera. You know what I'm saying? Like see that scene visually that I wrote and seeing it come to life. I think that's probably my favorite part. But by advantages, I want to just say specifically, do you mean advantages personally or advantages like working in it? Like how do you...
I'd say mainly working in it for now.
Working in it. So an advantage to be a DP is, again, you can be creative. Part of that, the whole industry is being creative, but I feel like you see that coming to life specifically in that department. And honestly, I'm gonna be biased. I think it's one of the coolest places to work on in film is the camera department, being a DP, being the first or second AC. Like I've had fun doing all those things. So I guess because when you are a DP, an advantage of becoming a DP is you have to know all the camera stuff, and you have to know G&E as well. So, and you also have to have that director mindset, like an actual film director, but you're the director for your small little crew. So being a DP allows you to build that leadership skill and allows you to become a flexible, sort of versatile filmmaker, because you have to have these other skills to become a successful DP. But to also become a successful DP, you have to go out and learn the other things as well. So I feel like that's one of the advantages, because you technically become a jack of all trades within the camera department and stuff like that.
Oh, I can tell you really love that DP position. Any disadvantages?
I do.
Any disadvantages, my dude?
Disadvantages is literally having to learn everything. Having to learn everything. It can also be very stressful, especially if things aren't going right. Of course, I forgot. Somebody told me that filmmaking is basically, I think my professor, he was like, oh, filmmaking is basically working with organized chaos from start to finish. Yeah. It's just organized chaos the whole time. So a disadvantage is it can just be extremely draining, and it can, because sometimes you're carrying, it depends. Sometimes the DP isn't necessarily like being the camera operator, but sometimes you are doing both camera operator and changing your lenses and stuff. Sometimes you're even your own AC, depending on the shoot. But it can be that you have a lot of stress and weight on yourself as a DP. But I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Would you say it kind of like those kind of go hand in hand with being a director too?
Yes, I do think so. I haven't really done that much I've technically directed one big project, and I definitely can say I learned a lot about my leadership skills and think that's something that still needs to be crafted. So advantages and disadvantages are coming to you soon, because I do not have a lot of experience yet.
It's okay. It's like that's how you learn. You just do it more and more.
Yeah. You continue doing it. Exactly.
This is our last one.
Okay.
Now, until I come up with any more, and then I'll bring it back. But
okay.
For now, the last question that I have for you What would be your advice for anybody who wants to get into this particular career path? Like, do you have any like words of wisdom, advice, and warnings?
I think the biggest one is patience. You have to be patient in this industry, as well as hardworking. And you have to sort of push yourself, because at the end of the day, if you have the connections to get you an easy way into the industry, great. But a majority of people who are genuine filmmakers and genuine storytellers, you have to be your own sort of support and your own sort of inspiration, really. Like, you should inspire yourself to work harder to get to the point of your own personal success, because Hollywood doesn't have to be success, but to get to your own point of success, you have to be your own like MVP, number one fan, stuff like that. But you also have to have patience, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to hone your craft. Like how I said, that's something I really want to focus on this year, and to sort of be able to create those networks over a variety of time. And also have fun. If you're not having fun, literally that's the key thing to life in any career path. If you're not having fun and enjoying it, stop doing it, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I've noticed for a lot of people, that's kind of like the whole patience thing. That's kind of like their biggest hurdle, because they're all like, oh no, I'm not doing all this. I'm on all these things and nothing's happening. It's like, just take your time.
Everyone has their own path and their own like journey, I guess, in working in film and being in any sort of creative work. Workspace. But if you keep doing it and you keep putting your work out there, that's another big thing. Put your work out there. I just uploaded on like Vimeo and stuff like that, social media stuff. So do that. That's a good way to product yourself, I guess, advertise yourself.
Yeah, because that's another thing. Because like, I know a lot of people are sometimes kind of nervous to advertise themselves. It's like, that's the only way you're really going to get out there.
Exactly. So again, hello everyone on the internet. My name is Ramon Rivera, but I go by Raymond. And social medias, you can find me on Instagram at reyy.xx. That's my filmmaking page. I will post things that I'm working on. You can see some of my previous work. I'm also on Vimeo, but I will send you a link to that once I have it fully ready and like scaled up and whatever. Make it look cute. And just final words is thank you. All right, this is the Atlanta Spotlight. Taylor's talking. Are you listening?